So what is your car accident case worth? That is the $1,000,000 question. Well, maybe $1,000,000 question. What's up, guys? I'm Colton Richardson, an injury attorney fighting for those who are hurt and taken advantage of. One of the questions I get often is, what is my case worth? Whether it's from clients or potential clients. And it is extremely difficult to answer that question, especially up front and with little facts. It depends on so many factors and how the process of the case goes and what the injuries turn out to be. Because sometimes at the beginning, we don't know the full extent of those injuries. In this video, I'm going to walk you through a few things. One, what makes up the value of your case, or what makes up the compensation of your case. Two, what is fair compensation? And 3, 4, and 5 will be going through medical bills, lost wages, and pain, suffering, and how that factors into your case value. The next thing we'll talk about is the law in Oklahoma, and the last is the other factors that affect the value of your case. So stick around until the end, where I'll share with you how to make your case worth 3.5 times more what the insurance company is offering you. So the first thing I'm going to go through is what makes up the value of your case. There are 3 things that you should be compensated for in most car accident cases that are not your fault. First, the other driver or the insurance company should pay your medical bills. Second, you should get paid for your lost wages. And third, you should be compensated for your pain and suffering that you had to go through from these injuries because of the accident. I'll walk through each of these in this video and break them down and how you calculate them. But first, we have to figure out what is fair compensation to settle your case for. An easy way to explain it is the lowest amount you're willing to accept and the most that they are willing to pay. Now, what is fair compensation? Fair compensation is usually based off what juries have given in cases in the past based on similar facts to your case and your situation. There are companies out there that have a list of jury verdicts that detail the main facts of the case and what the ultimate jury verdict of that was. This ultimately helps because whatever you settle for is hopefully what a jury would have awarded you if you took it to trial. Now, there are some reasons why you would settle for less than what you think a jury would award it at trial. A big reason is the cost and time that it takes. It might be worth taking $2,000 less now rather than spending $5,000 or $10,000 to try the case in 1 year. Another thing is insurance companies have done all the research and have figured out that juries don't give as much money in certain type of cases. An example of this is what insurance companies call missed cases. MIST stands for minor impact soft tissue. This means that the car accident was minor and there was not much damage to vehicles. And the soft tissue means that there are no broken bones and usually no surgery needed. It's often when you see chiropractors and physical therapists in those situations. Insurance companies have done all the research and figured out that juries usually do not give as much money in these cases. Is that fair? I don't think so. Some of the worst injuries are those that go unseen. They're herniated discs or some type of bulging disc, especially in the spine, is where you don't see these visible injuries, but that really affect people's everyday lives. Next, I'm going to walk you through those 3 main factors that make up your case value. But first, if you've already learned something, hit that like button and share this video with someone that you might think could gain some value from it. That means so much to me. But like I said, the first thing that makes up your value of your case is your medical bills and your medical records or injuries. Now, I don't say just injuries, because if you were in an accident and didn't get any treatment and went to the insurance company or even a jury and said, hey, I've got these injuries, how much do you think they're worth? Let's talk negotiations. And the insurance adjuster can be like, show me your medical records, show me your medical bills. Did you go get treatment? And you say, no, I didn't go get treatment. They're not going to believe you at all. So make sure that you go see the doctor after an accident. And that's why I don't say just injuries, because it really is good to document those injuries through medical records and medical bills. Like I said in other videos, there are 2 reasons to go to the doctor. First, obviously to get better, and 2, to document your injuries so that the insurance adjuster, opposing counsel, or a jury believes you and that you're trying to get better. Now, you can get compensated for both past and future medical bills. First, let's walk through your past medical. This includes all the doctor's bills you've received up until your settlement or your trial. Medical providers will treat you on a lien basis, which means you don't owe anything up front, and the provider will get paid whenever the settlement or the end of the trial happens, whenever you actually get funds. These liens are usually filed with the county court of where the treatment was provided, where the patient lives. If you have health insurance, then you'll likely have to pay them back as well, either some of it or all of what they have paid. In Oklahoma, the legislature made a law that you can only admit into evidence at a trial the medical bills that you have actually paid for or actually owe, not what medical bills you have actually incurred. That means if the actual cost of your surgery was $10,000, but your insurance company only paid $3,000 for the surgery, then you can only admit that $3,000 into evidence. So you should be compensated for all the past medical treatment that you have paid or will have to pay. Now you can also get compensated for the future medical care that you will have after the trial or after the settlement of your case. For past medical, we obviously have concrete numbers. For future medical, it can be a little more abstract. The first thing you will need is a doctor or some type of expert to state how much medical treatment that they believe you will need in the future. This is where we'll start. So you'll have a certain amount of medical bills each year, and you'll take that amount and multiply it by how many years you actually live. But how do you know how long you'll live? Well, the Social Security Administration has actuaries who have done the research to figure out the average lifespan after you've lived so long. You can find this table at ssa.gov, the Social Security Administration website. So for example, I am 28 years old right now, and this table says on average I have about 50 years left to live. 49 point something, but let's take 50 years just to make it the math easier. So let's say I have been in an accident and I need about $1,000 of future medical treatment each year. So I take that 50 years and multiply it by $1,000. So my future medical bills will be somewhere around $50,000. So the formula is cost per year times how many years you'll live. However, insurance companies usually discount that based off of the future value. That gets complicated, and I honestly don't know the formula off the top of my head. I did when I took financial accounting, but that was almost 10 years ago, so I do not remember that. But this is how you calculate the future medical. So now you know how your medical is calculated to make up your case value, both past and future. Now the next thing that makes up your case value is lost wages. Again, this includes both past and future. We'll start with how lost wages is factored into your case value. So now you know how your medical is calculated into your case value, both past and future. And now for lost wages, it's also into two categories of past and future lost wages. So depending on your situation, there's a few different ways how you'll calculate lost wages. If you're an hourly employee, that makes it a little bit easier because you'll just take the amount of hours that you've missed work from your treatment or your injuries and multiply that by how much you get paid. And so say I get paid $10 an hour and I missed 20 hours that week, then that's $200 that I've missed and that you can ask to be compensated for in your case. Another way to calculate is if you're a salary, then it gets a little bit more complicated. You're not paid a certain amount per hour. But if you look at your pay stubs, then it might have a figure that it multiplies the amount of hours by, and that'll give you a rough estimate of how much you're paid per hour. You can take that number and multiply it by the amount of hours that you've missed at work to get a rough estimate of your lost wages. So what I would say is if you're a business owner, take the last year of what you made, divide it by 52 and then 40 hours per week on average, and make that your hourly wage, and then multiply it by how many hours you missed. That'll be a rough estimate, but that is the easiest way possible to do that if you're a business owner. Now again, you can get compensated for your future lost wages as well. This is more for serious injuries that leave a lasting impression. Say I am a welder and I lose my arm and I can't weld anymore. That'll definitely have an effect on lost wages in the future. Now you also have to mitigate your damages, which means do what you can to minimize the injuries or minimize the financial hardship on you. And so for example, if I can't weld anymore, but I can go be a cashier at Walmart, I need to go do that. And that makes it hard, but really the future lost wages is for those with serious injuries. Now if you get compensated for lost wages, that is taxable as income, and so if it's itemized in the settlement, then you'll definitely need to pay taxes on it. That's just something to remember whenever you're dealing with this. The third thing that makes up your case value and what you should be compensated for after medical bills and treatment and your injuries and lost wages is pain and suffering. Now that's so abstract and much more abstract than medical bills and lost wages, because that's a way that you can actually calculate and get a pretty concrete number. But pain and suffering is much more abstract. And that's why it's so important to have a personal injury case, especially in more serious injuries, because they really know from their experience how much pain and suffering most cases get. And it always depends on the situation, circumstances, but an experienced personal injury lawyer will be able to walk you through and help you maximize your compensation for this pain and suffering. Now, like I said earlier, hopefully the value of your case and what you're compensated for is equivalent or similar to what a jury would give with similar circumstances from the past. And so there are many different factors that a jury can consider. And in Oklahoma, I'll walk you through some of those. Let me bring them up. And you can find these on OSCN, Oklahoma State Courts Network.net. They're the civil Oklahoma uniform jury instructions, and it breaks down different factors that a jury can consider when they're deliberating your case and how much they can compensate you for. And so those would be physical pain and suffering, both past and future. So if you have a lasting injury, then you can be compensated for both what you've experienced for pain and suffering in the past and future pain and suffering for that lasting injury. You can also get compensated for your mental pain and suffering, both past and future. They can also take into consideration your age, your physical condition immediately before and after the accident, the nature and extent of the injuries, whether these injuries are permanent or temporary, your physical impairment, the disfigurement, so maybe you have a scar now or you've lost a limb. They can also consider loss of earnings and time. And so earnings is obviously, like we talked about, if you're a 8 to 5 job and you miss work, your salary or hourly, you can get compensated for that. But it also takes in consideration lost time. So if you're a, for example, stay-at-home mom, obviously that's not worth $0. That's worth quite a bit. And so you can have someone come in and estimate how much it would be to have someone else come and do those chores for you, and that would be loss of time as well. Impairment of earning capacity. So like I said, for example, if you're a surgeon and lose your hand, you can't do surgery anymore, so you'll have to find a different job that might not make you as much money. So that's what it means by impairment of earning capacity. And the last thing is the reasonable expenses of necessary medical care, treatment, and services, both past and future. So that's some of the factors that a jury can take in consideration when they're evaluating a individual's claim for their injuries after a car accident. And it's definitely something to remember and take into consideration when you're looking to see how much your case is worth. And like I said in the beginning, there are many other factors that are considered in determining what your case is worth. Some of those include the extent of your injuries. If it's just a bruise, that's not valued as much as if you lose an arm or something like that, obviously. Something else you can take into consideration is the other side might be saying you were partially at fault. And that'll make it more difficult when it comes to a jury, because you really don't know what they're going to do. They could find that it's all your fault. And so that's also why it's important to get an attorney in those situations, especially when it's a he said, she said, or if there's third-party witnesses, why it's important to do an investigation. One other thing to consider that really is taken into account for the value of your case is whether you're consistent with your treatment or not. Because consistency shows that you're doing what the doctor tells you to and you're trying to get better. And if you just stop going to the doctor after 2 times when the physical therapist said he needs to see you for 18 sessions, that's going to especially hurt your case and minimize your case value. So really there are 3 things that make up the majority of your case value. That's your medical bills, treatment, your injuries. Second, that's your lost wages and lost income. And third is your pain and suffering. And all those are past and future. So that's how you can get an idea of how much your case is worth. So like I said from the start of the video, I would tell you the secret to maximizing your case value. So here it is. According to the Insurance Research Council, someone who's been injured in a car accident received 3.5 times more money when they hired a lawyer who focuses primarily on personal injury cases. This is the quickest way to over 3 times your case value and the money that you get in your pocket. That's why it's so important to hire an experienced personal injury attorney. So I'll see you in the next video where I'll show you how to find the best personal injury lawyer who will maximize what your case is worth. I'll see you there.